there'll be. Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Lichten, and I wanted to thank all of you for joining today's member webinar, Career Transition Roadmap, taking a strategic view of your career. Wanted to go over some housekeeping items before we introduce you to our esteemed speaker. Please use the Q&A box and Zoom chat to ask questions throughout the presentation. As a courtesy to presenters, all attendees have been muted. And that's it. Please enjoy the content we have for you today. I'm now going to introduce Caroline Lieber to introduce our speaker.
Hi, this is Caroline Lieber, and I am one of the co-chairs for the Late Career SIG. Our speaker today is Barbara Phillips, and she is an executive career, retirement, and life coach who has supported dozens of clients over the last 10 years in two specific areas: career transition, job search strategies, and retirement transition. We met Barbara through a webinar that she did for the Late Career SIG. And this particular webinar that you're seeing today is really a result of the success of that first webinar. She has served as an executive coach for the Women's Leadership Program at the Yale School of Management for the last 6 years. She's passionate about supporting women in owning their strengths, believing in their capabilities, and taking action to support living their best selves and best lives. She earned her BA in biology as a pre-med from Williams College and an MA in organizational psychology from Columbia University. She received her coaching certification from the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. And now I'm going to turn it over to Barbara.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I had to clear my throat. I didn't want to do it while you were talking. Hello, everyone. Excuse me. I'm just going to take a sip of water. I'm really happy to be here with all of you. I've loved working. Oh, my kitty. I locked my kitty in the closet and she got out. I apologize. So I am here today to talk about career transition, how to take a strategic view of your career. I've loved working with Caroline and Jenny on the prior webinar that I did for your organization. The timing of this webinar is interesting because I'm going to assume that many of you have heard the language, the Great Resignation or the Great Reset. Given the last 2+ years of dealing with COVID and a lot of people working from home and the huge disruption in people's work lives, their overall lives, a lot of people are really rethinking and questioning not only their lives, but how their work fits into their lives. So the timing of this is really perfect for that reason. Okay, now why is, okay, sorry, there we go. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to review the career transition framework, which is a roadmap for how to think about making a change in your career. We're going to have about 10 minutes for self-reflection in breakout rooms where you'll get to be with other people on the webinar. And you are going to identify one small action that you will take to move forward as part of those breakout rooms. I'm going to briefly review 5 strategies for building resilience during change. And my hope for this webinar is that all of you feel a sense of greater confidence and optimism as you navigate and take personal ownership of your career transition. Now, before I go to the career transition framework, I'm going to take a couple minutes to highlight a few elements of my career because I think it will be useful. There are some similarities with the kind of work you do. And I also touch on a few things I'll be talking about later. So as Caroline said, I was pre-med in college and did the whole thing and decided not to go to medical school. And honestly, that was the best decision I've ever made. I moved out to California from the East Coast and I ended up working in women's health care for 13 years. Planned Parenthood, another women's healthcare center. So I have had experience working one-on-one with women in a very intimate kind of relationship related to reproductive healthcare issues. And I loved that work. About halfway through those 13 years, I felt an itch for more responsibility and more money. And I ended up managing the Planned Parenthood Medical Center in San Francisco for 7 years. So I removed myself from that direct one-on-one patient care. We called patients clients, actually. So I really focused on developing my management skills, my leadership skills, but I missed that one-on-one. And so I remember whenever I had the opportunity, I'd throw on my white lab coat and I'd go out into the clinic and I'd take blood pressures and draw blood. And at the time you could do that without being certified in California. So leaving patient care, moving into management. And then I started to really feel burnout. And for a couple of years, I was stuck. I really didn't know what I wanted to do next. So I did a lot of research. I did a lot of informational interviews. I decided to go back to school in my mid-30s, get a graduate degree in organizational psychology. And a job landed in my lap from American Express, of all things. Not on my radar, never would have thought about working at American Express. But there it was. I said yes. I ended up spending 10 years at American Express working in human resources, organizational development, talent development, leadership development. After 10 years, I felt that maybe it's time to make a change. I went over to Pfizer for 8 years. I did similar kind of work there. Then I hit what I call another wall, like, this isn't working for me anymore, but I don't know what I want to do. So I actually volunteered for a package, took 6 months off to just settle and into myself. And what I decided to do was part-time consulting, leveraging my human resource skills. I got certified as a coach, and I've been focusing on career and retirement coaching for the last 10 years. So a key point of this, one, I've had 3 careers. I never would have imagined that I would work in women's healthcare at Planned Parenthood specifically, and then work in the corporate world was not on my radar. And then to be working as a consultant and coach, not on my radar. So this speaks to the interesting trajectories of careers and how they can wind and go into directions that you probably aren't even aware of right now. And I'm going to say one more thing. I tend to be a very risk-averse person with big decisions. And I had a lot of fear during these big transitions. And ultimately, I had to do my due diligence, gather information, but ultimately I just had to take that leap, and it can be really scary. And, most people leave their jobs when the pain of staying is great enough that it pushes them out. And that has been my path. And I can say that what I'm doing now is a perfect fit for who I am. And it builds on all the experience that I've gained in all my different careers. So I'm hoping there's something in there that was helpful for all of you. So here's the framework. We're starting on the right, understanding where you are now. Then we'll talk about key transition principles, assessing alternatives, taking a strategic view, common concerns. We'll do some self-reflection. And my hope is that in all of the information that I will be giving you, there will be enhanced clarity for you as you think about what's next for me. So we're going to start with a quick poll. Where are you now? And here are your options. No clue. I have no idea what my next job's going to be. General idea. I have some idea, but I haven't honed in on one specific path, or I know exactly what I want. Where are you now? And it's looking like most of you have a general idea. A good number of you have no clue. I can empathize with that. And then a smaller number of you know what you want. We'll wait just a few more minutes. I mean, not minutes, seconds before we close out the poll and see where we land. And we'll share the final results. Okay, Jason, are we ending the poll? Okay, great. So it stayed pretty much the same. Mostly general idea, good. No clue. Okay, we're going to focus on that. And then a few of you know what you want. Okay, great. So let's talk about each of these. I don't know how, let me get out of that poll. Okay, here we go. So if you know what you want, we're starting with the easiest one. If you know what you want, I'm going to give you a roadmap for things to consider. By the way, you're going to get a copy of all these slides. You don't need to take detailed notes. You'll get all this. So if you know what you want, clarify what is that goal and create a customized job search plan based on your priorities and needs to achieve that goal. So things like refining your resume, LinkedIn, if you use that in your field, what's your unique value proposition? Why would someone hire you? What are your transferable skills, technical, softer skills like leadership, communication, empathy? What organizations could use your skills? What organizations are you interested in working with for and who's hiring? And do you know people who can support you in getting into that organization? You want to think about your pitch, how you talk about what you're looking for as you potentially do networking and talking with people and exploring what's out there. Managing your self-doubts and fear, that's just a part of the process. Applying to jobs, leveraging your network. Most people find jobs based on people that they know who support them. So keep that in mind versus just applying to jobs. You prepare for interviews, you execute your plan, you modify as needed. So this is a job search 101 on a slide. If you know what you want, focus on finding the how do I get that? If you have a general idea, maybe you have a couple different paths that you're considering, you need more information. I'm a huge fan of informational interviews, setting up 15, 20 minutes with people that are in the roles you're thinking about, getting advice, getting real life, hands on the ground information about what it's like to do that role, doing research online. And as you go through the process, considering, so what am I learning? Is this helping me get greater clarity on what my next job is going to be? Some people are on two tracks as they look for a job. It could be A, it could be B, and they look for both simultaneously. That is an option. just be sure that you customize your resume for those two different paths so that you look like a good fit for both as you are applying. So then you move into everything that was on the prior slide. You're just adding a layer of information gathering, learning, exploring. So that is the guidance I would give to those of you in this group. If you don't know, no clue, this can be challenging. I've been there 2 to 3 times. It can be really challenging. And so what I want to say is a good step for you is to really know thyself. Think about what gives you a sense of meaning and purpose in your work. What are your current life priorities, your values, your interests, your passions? What must you have in the next job? What don't you want? What are the skills you love using? Do you potentially need to acquire more skills? You could hire a career coach, and you can also talk with people who know you well. Sometimes it's very hard to see ourselves because we're in ourselves, so to speak, but getting feedback from people who know you well can be helpful. We are going to send you a set of exercises after this webinar that get at some of these self-reflection questions. And that can be helpful for all of you, but particularly if you don't have a clue, I recommend that you take some time to do those exercises. And then you layer on the next step, get more information, and then you layer on the final step, Job Search 101. So your focus is on finding the what do I want to do? So key transition principles, particularly for those of you that are feeling stuck, you have no clue. Clarity may evolve over time. It's rarely an instantaneous, oh my God, that's it. And I know in my situation, the few times I hit what I call a wall, it had been bubbling up for years, a couple years, okay, this doesn't feel quite right. I'm feeling less satisfaction. Oh, okay, let me see if I can try to make it better where I am. Okay, well, that's not really working. And then finally getting to the place where that voice inside is so loud that I know I need to move into action. There's likely more than one right answer or path. And it's important to consider that, we know about the term corporate career ladder, and you just keep moving up, up, up. You could move sideways, you can move quote unquote down and then go back up. I watched a really cool TED conference recently where they talk about careers as squiggly. You know, they're all over the place. You never know where one job is going to lead you. So important to be open to the process and not think there's one right answer. If you can create an image of your ideal next role, I encourage you to do that. How would you be spending your days? What would you be doing? What would you not be doing? Who would you be interacting with? What would the culture of the organization be? We are often reactive with job search. Oh, there's a job out there, I'm going to apply. If you can create an image in your mind of what you're looking for, that can be a really helpful, proactive step to take to the best of your ability. There will be trade-offs, you know, and you're very fortunate if there aren't any. So for me, I wanted more, more responsibility and money, but then that meant I moved up into management and I didn't have that direct patient care full-time job. And so there's always going to be trade-offs. And that's something that you have to factor in and know what's non-negotiable. Like, I must have this. So there is due diligence involved in looking for what's next, information gathering, talking with people, but ultimately there's an element of learning to trust yourself in the process, because you will never have all the information that you want. You want to have enough information that you are willing to take that risk and leap of faith and say yes to what's next. And when you're in transition, fears and self-doubt are just louder because you're leaving something that's stable and safe and secure. You're moving into this unknown future. So be gentle with yourself if you are feeling fear and self-doubt. It is completely normal as you go through a transition. Assessing options. So you see 4 doors. Okay, I'm maybe thinking about the yellow door or the red door or the green door. You are on this side, and it is up to you to be proactive and open those doors to get more information. Talking with people, researching, exploring what is behind that door, and is that for me? And so this is, if you're thinking about more than one thing and you're not sure which it is, you need to take that initiative to find out more. But the door could also open from the other side. A random opportunity might appear. Someone you know says, oh my God, I've got this great job over here. It looks like it would be a good fit for you. And it wasn't even on your radar. So as you're in this transition process, you want to be open and flexible and scan your environment for things that might come in. It's interesting. Once you make that commitment to, okay, I'm ready to make a change, I'm starting the process. Once you make that commitment, very often things start to appear. It's as if you are co-creating with the universe. And trust your hunches and instincts, that inner voice. I get a lot of interesting ideas. A lot of people do, like in the shower, when I'm, exercising, or before I go to sleep. Ideas are there. And particularly if you don't know what you want to do, I recommend keeping a journal, because information is in there. There's a part of you talking to you, and you want to listen to that. And you can think about, how do you typically make big decisions? Is it very logical? It's your mind. Is it your heart's involved? You can feel it. This feels right. Is it a gut feeling? You know it. So begin to pay attention to that part of yourself. And then it's all about taking small steps to learn more, staying in action, and you decide the pace. If this feels urgent, you may want to take more action. If you feel like, no, this isn't urgent, I can take my time, you'll have a slower pace. But ultimately, you are looking for an optimal fit for you, whatever it is that you do next. You want to be happy. You want to be doing work that you enjoy, work where in an environment where you feel valued, potentially learning and growing, developing new skills. And so that's what you're going for, your own happiness. And from that perspective, I say, make it as fun as you can. And get involved simply means don't just sit behind your computer. And granted, we're in COVID, but get involved means talking with people, networking, Zoom meetings. Maybe it's joining a professional association that's related to something that you're aiming for. Really important, because every person you meet is going to have something for you. Every person you have a conversation with. And then just be aware of how you are doing throughout this process. Oh, okay. This one over here, this option I was thinking about, nope, that's a dead end. Oh, this one over, oh, this one's interesting. I'm learning more about this option. I'm getting excited. I want to keep going in that direction. Taking a strategic view. So this is about having a broader perspective, a bigger picture view, a longer term view, and thinking about how your next job fits into your longer career trajectory. So I'm going to start with, are you goal-oriented, outer-directed, or inner-directed? What I mean by that is some of us like to set goals like, okay, in 5 years, I want to be here, or 3 years, I want to be there. Some of us, and I say us because this is me, this is I, are inner directed. I never had a career goal. I always just took a job for all the reasons I did, and I kept paying attention to myself. How's it feeling? Does it still feel good? What do I need more of? What do I need less of? And then when it came time to make a change, scanning the environment, what are the opportunities out there? And in a world that is changing at an accelerated pace, I think being goal-oriented can be more challenging because, you know, even thinking about the field you're in, where's the field going to be in 10 years? What is that going to look like? And you might have a sense of trends, but at the end of the day, it could be very different. So just something to consider. Do you have an ultimate career goal? I never did. But some of you might. And so if you have an ultimate career goal, you want to think about how will this next role benefit you in getting where you want to go. And for all of you, giving consideration to what job might you want to have after the next one. So again, it's a bigger view. So for example, you know, I was working at American Express. It's a huge organization, all kinds of job opportunities, and a great place to develop skills and have different kinds of jobs. I had 4 jobs when I was there. And so as you move into your next job, think about, okay, so if I say yes to that job, what could I say about the potential for movement after that? And is that helpful as I make my decision? And you want to be thinking about the portfolio of skills and experiences that you want to continue to use and or develop. So if you have an ultimate career goal, what are the skills? What are the experiences that you need that will help you achieve that goal? Because at the end of the day, it's almost as if we're all self-employed and we want to continue to grow our skills, grow the kinds of experiences we have so that we can leverage that as we move forward. And with every job change you make, you're going to view the world from a different perspective that you can't even see now. And that is, you know, so that's the surprise of job change. You know, whether it's a new job, it's a different perspective, a new organization, it's a different perspective. So there's a part of all of this that you don't know what you don't know until you make that change. But from that different perspective, different opportunities might appear. So common concerns. Should I stay? Should I go? And a long list of what ifs. You know, let me say, you know, should I stay? Should I go? How do I know I'm making a good decision? It feels like a big risk. I'm not a risk taker. What ifs? What if the next role doesn't work out? What if I'm unhappy? What if I regret my decision? What if it's a bad career move? I mean, there's so many what ifs, right? So it's important to focus on what is it about the role that is exciting to you and not allow yourself to get too caught up in the what ifs, because we can't predict the future, right? So knowing yourself, knowing yourself. Okay, I've done my due diligence. I know what's important to me. I think this is going to be a great fit. I'm gathering my information. I take the leap and trusting yourself that whatever happens on the other side, you're able to figure it out. You'll be able to figure it out. You're making a decision based on good information, and you can't predict the future. And what is the worst thing that's going to happen? You'll figure it out. No job change is irreversible. It's not life-threatening, right? Maybe you'll stick at that particular job for a year and move on to a new job. Maybe there are additional opportunities where you go that are not even on your radar right now. So know that it's normal to have this fear. And I certainly experienced it personally. But it's a risk to make a change. And it could be uncomfortable, but it is not life-threatening. You will figure it out. So at this point, because I've talked a lot, I am going to ask, before we go into breakouts, are there any questions that you have received that I would be more than happy to answer? And given the number of people that are on the call, I obviously can't answer all questions, but I'll answer as many as we can.
So Barbara, this is Jenny. I'm monitoring the chat. I'm not seeing any questions being posted into the chat right now. Participants, just know that that's how we're going to monitor for questions. So please do put your question in the chat if you have one.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. So there will be another opportunity at the end for questions. So between now and then, if you have a question that you would like me to address, feel free to post it in the chat. So breakouts, here is what we are going to do. Now, I don't know how many people are on the call right now. We had heard that over 300 signed up, and so we were going to have 50 groups with about 6 to 8 people in a group, because Zoom only lets us do 50 groups. I'm wondering if whoever's managing this, you can let me know how many attendees we have, and we can just jigger this just in time.
So right now we're at 113. This is Jason. So if
Oh,
I'll do about 30, 39 breakout rooms, and that should be right at
yeah.
3.
So yeah, if we had 3 in a group, that's ideal. So that's perfect. So we're going to have roughly 3 plus minus in a group. We're going to give you 10 minutes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Excuse me, this is Jenny. We do have a question that came through. I'm not sure if you want to address it before the breakout rooms, but the question is, can you speak to salary negotiations when you are moving from academia to industry?
Can I speak to salary negotiations moving from academia to industry? So that's interesting. That is a huge question. There is so much free online guidance. You could just Google salary negotiation, and there's going to be a lot of information because that in and of itself is a webinar. And so what comes to mind, couple things. My supposition would be that going from academia to industry, there is going to be a pay differential in that industry pays more. If this assumption is correct, you want to get a sense of what is that pay scale? Talk to people. What's the range? So that you have real market data, or as close as you can get. You can go onto salary.com to start. What are salaries out there for different kinds of roles? But when you're in a negotiation, you want to have a decent sense of the market value of the job and salary negotiations always come down to what do you have and how is that valued in the market, right? So as women, I'm going to say in general, women are not as comfortable negotiating as men are. I think that is changing. Know that if you were to get an offer, every offer is negotiable. Always ask for more because the organization is trying to get you for as little as they can, and you want to try to get as much as you can. So I hope that's helpful, getting information and getting more, doing some research on how you actually talk about salary as you're negotiating an offer. Okay. So we're moving back. Thank you for the question, Sarah. Here's what you're going to do in your groups. And it says 1.5 minutes. You're actually going to have a few minutes per person. I suggest you identify a timekeeper. So 3 minutes a person. What is your biggest concern about making a job career change? Biggest concern. 2, what is one skill I have that will help me effectively navigate a career transition? One skill. 3, what is one action I can take to move me closer to my goal? And so I'm going to type this in the chat so it's here for you. We've got Jason setting up breakout rooms, biggest concern, one skill, one action. And I'll see you back here in 10.
Hey, Barbara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So the rooms are all set. We're right at three per room. So that's looking good. We have room 7 that has 2. Room 12 that has 2.
All good. All good. The people that have 2 get the benefit of more airtime.
There's 1 person. Okay. I moved that person to a room. There's 1 person I need to move. 28.
And I'm watching the time, so we will be out in about 9 minutes, and I will be minimizing the chat debrief.
Okay.
And maybe end the final questions. It looks like there are not a lot of questions anyway, so that works.
So all rooms have at least 2 and no more than 3.
Good. Beautiful. We're 2/3 of the way through. Any feedback thus far? Any,
No, it's going well. A lot of the participants are dropping off. I can see that.
they're dropping off.
Yeah.
Okay, so Justine just chatted. She needs a new group. She was in 5. Yeah, dropping off. That often happens when we do breakouts in Zooms. Are you seeing the chat? Vinaya needs a partner.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just moving people.
Marcia.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't joining. Just try to.
Oh, that's too bad. So people are just leaving the webinar.
Or just not joining the breakout.
Got it.
I
Got
can
it. Yeah.
see all
Yeah,
that.
that's not atypical. Mira, Marcia. So you're managing that, Jason?
Yeah, it's best
Okay.
as fast
As
as I
best
can.
you can, yeah.
It's-
Oh,
let's let me see. For those that not join, let's try to bring them back and just have a dialogue here, just to have something. Let's see.
that's cool. Whatever works.
So I'm gonna broadcast to all.
Great.
Let me see if I can send that to everybody.
Life throws curveballs. So will all these people be able to talk, or what are you thinking, Jason, given that we've got a few more minutes?
Yeah, I can unmute. Hopefully it doesn't
Yeah.
get too crazy, but I can let's see what we got.
You know what we might do? Can they all hear me?
I am not sure in the breakout room.
No, the people that are back here. I'm thinking they could just start sharing in chat. Share in chat, biggest concern, skill, action. So I don't know, can people hear me, Jason? I would recommend that people that have come back in the main room, because they were in a
Yeah,
group
someone
with-
put a thumbs up so they can hear you. Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah. So for apologies, a number of people did not join breakout rooms. So a number of you found yourself by yourself. So that's not helpful. So my recommendation is just chat in the chat. What's your biggest concern? What's one skill? What's one action? Let's use the chat as a way for you to at least have a voice on this topic. And so nothing's coming through in the chat, so that may not be palatable to everyone. So biggest concern, one skill I have, one action. Okay, finding something that fits my need for work-life balance. Great. So that's your concern. So you know that work-life balance is important to you. And so you're looking for an organization that values that. And, you know, the great news is this whole great resignation is really putting some pressure on organizations to meet more of the needs and demands of workers. So we're at a time where the likelihood of that might be greater than it ever has been. Any other concerns? One action. Not being as happy in my new job as I am. I work with multiple different, which has given me skills to navigate working with many different personalities. You know, I think that's a really common concern. What if I'm not as happy in my new job? That is possible. And it's also possible that you could be happier in your next job. Both are true. We tend to focus on the negative versus the positive. So you're currently working with multiple providers, it's given you skills. That's wonderful. That's great. And maybe you want to keep doing that. Maybe that's good enough for now. So I think more about what do you not have now that you would like? And are you feeling the discomfort of, I do love this, but I really don't like all that. And therefore, is it time to think about a change?
Barbara, with 15 minutes left, I think I'm
Yep,
gonna.
so we
close
should
out.
close the groups, Yep,
They're gonna close out in 50 seconds, and then we can
Yep.
have more open dialogue and field more questions once that's done.
yeah, so what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna have people continue to share in the chat. And so for those of you that are in the room right now and can hear me, what's one thing you've learned? You know, it was going to be about being in the breakout room, but what's one thing you learned today from everything that I've shared with you? If anything comes to mind, what's one thing you've learned? As people come back into the room, I'm asking you to write in the chat, what's one thing you learned? One thing you learned in your breakout room. Or today from the webinar for that matter. What's one thing you've learned so far? Future job title doesn't have to have genetic counselor in it. Great. Good. I don't have a concrete next action and I need one. Yeah, action, you know, if you really know you want to make a change, you do need a next step. You need to move in the direction of informational interviews. Wonderful, great. Self-reflection, great. Networking, okay, good. So as you come back in the room, what's one thing you learned in the chat? Speak with people in the roles you're interested in can be super beneficial. Of course, they're doing it. Get their perspective. Wonderful. And I'm going to add another question for those of you, you know, in a sense, I think you're doing that. The one action, networking, consulting, what you learned, therefore, gives you an idea about what you need to do. Having conversation with friends, perfect for perspective on skill set. Wonderful. So we are going to move on. You can continue to write in the chat. Briefly, I'm going to talk about 5 effective strategies for building resilience. The truth is, this is a 2-hour webinar, but I want to highlight 5 things to bring to your awareness as you go through this transition. The first strategy, and there are many, I picked 5. Focus on what you can control. Do not focus on what is outside of your control. You have so much control in this process. Who you talk with, getting all your marketing materials, resume, etc., ready. There's so much control you have and we tend to focus on, but there are no jobs out there, or, you know, the economy's not good, or whatever it is. Stay focused on what you can control in this process and then make that happen. Remember that we've all successfully managed change. We've all been through adversity. We've all come through to the other side. It can be helpful for some people to think about, what are other big changes I've made? What was helpful as I made that change? Is that relevant to me now as I think about making this next change? You want to build yourself up. You want to feel your own agency as you navigate this transition, particularly if there's fear and self-doubt that's chiming in. Manage your mindset and emotions. So that's interesting because Valerie put in the chat, being in a job a long time is comfortable, but very scary to jump to another job. I so get it. And it's hard to leave a job that you love. Okay. So Fear and doubt. Manage your mindset and emotions. We could do a whole webinar on this. Be aware of your inner critic. Be aware of what you're saying to yourself. Be aware of where you're putting your attention. Are you focusing on fear and doubt, or are you focusing on, I really am ready and able to make this change. I can do this. I've got it. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, I'm feeling some fear, but the more information I gather and the more action steps I take, it's going to build your confidence. So know that feeling fear and self-doubt is normal. There is nothing wrong with you, and just be very aware of how you manage that. Create a support structure. When you are in transition, you need more support than usual. There are people that will give you guidance and information and be helpful in that way. And there's people you go to for emotional support. Know who is who. Increase self-care practices. When we're in transition, we often feel off-center, not balanced, a little wobbly. Really important to think about, what do I need to do to take really good care of myself, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and do more of that. What restores you? What rejuvenates you? What makes you feel like you are being your best self? Really important to focus on in transition. So this is aspirational, moving from fear of change to feeling excited and ready for change. Fear is not going anywhere. It's how you manage that fear and not make yourself wrong for feeling it, and thinking of strategies to minimize it. That is really important. And I'm going to leave you with a quote before we go into final questions. Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. I would suggest we never see the whole staircase of our lives. We never have seen the whole staircase of our lives. And here we are. We got here. Like, kudos to us. There was no roadmap, and here we are. So taking a step, and then taking another step, and then taking another step, and then you get momentum, and then you start to build your confidence. And for me, for sure, faith was absolutely required in my critical career junctions. I just had to have faith in myself, in what I call the universe. It could be life, it could be God, it could be whatever it is. There is faith involved because you're moving into the unknown. But where you have agency is in the actions that you take. So I'm looking in the chat. Don't let I love the team be the only thing holding you back if nothing else is working. We're a bunch of genetic counselors. I've yet to hear someone say they don't like their team. So you'll probably like your new team too. I love this. That's great. Yeah. Great advice. I remember when I was at Pfizer and I kept saying, okay, so why am I still here? What's working? What's working? Okay, so the pay's working, the benefits are working. I've got some good people here. That's working. But then with all the layoffs and the environment at the time, even that kind of went away. And I got to the point where I was saying, I'm here for the money and the benefits. That's why I'm here. And that's not a great place to be. I mean, it's not horrible, but in terms of my soul and my purpose and having meaning, that's what pushed me over the edge. So yeah, you hopefully will be working with great people, and you can assess for that as you're going through the interview process. So any questions? We've got a few minutes and I've got a few closing thoughts. Any questions that you want to put into the chat? And I don't see any. So let me just say, I'll take a minute and then I'll go back to our moderators. So, you know, I love this. Imagine John Lennon, Strawberry Fields, New York City. There's so much possibility in front of you. There's so many opportunities, some that you're not even aware of. And so to the best of your ability, imagine the best possible action and take steps to move you towards that and believe that it's possible. Our mindsets can make all of the difference between our happiness and unhappiness. Imagine yourself as competent and capable with lots of skills to offer that many companies would love to hire you for. Know that you are that person. Even if you don't feel it every day, you have the capacity to create your own best future. I'm going to look, okay, 2 things. More advice for retirement. Sorry, that's a whole other webinar. Interview questions you recommend one always ask. There's many. You know, asking when you're with your hiring manager, I'd want to know more about their leadership style. I'd want to get a sense of how does this person actually work, and is this someone that I can work with? You could ask questions. So that's about the leader, about the company. Show that you've done your research on their website. You should have that down. Show them that you know something about the organization and ask a question related to that. So I think higher level, more strategic questions show that you're thinking bigger, not only about the job, but the organization and why you want to be there. That would be my initial guidance. Let me just see. Be trying to change the culture of the place. Oh, you know, one person changing the culture of the place. God bless you. Kelsey. You know, if you think there's a way to do that, given your role, great, but culture is pretty sticky. Pausing career to raise young children, you know, this is such a woman's issue. You know, it may or may not limit future opportunities. I can't really say. That's a longer conversation. Clearly, when you're out of the workforce for a while, you're not developing those workforce skills, but you absolutely have all kinds of opportunities when you come back. Okay, I'm done. It's 1:59.
Well, thank you, Barbara, for such a inspiring conversation today, and for all of our members who joined this webinar. This concludes today's member webinar. On behalf of the NSGC webinar subcommittee, I wanted to thank you all for attending, and a huge thank you again to our speaker for sharing your story and facilitating some great conversations today. This webinar recording will be posted to the webinar page of the NSGC website within 48 hours. Have a great day, everyone.